Have you noticed how fast peace can disappear? You can be fine, you can be present, you can be in your own lane, and then something tiny happens. A comment, a look, a number on a screen. Someone else gets what you wanted. Someone else seems happier, richer, freer, more loved. And in a few seconds, your face falls. Not always on the outside, but inside. Something drops, something tightens. A quiet openness gets replaced by a loud argument. Genesis 4 is usually told as a story about two brothers and a murder. But I want to read it as a diagram of that exact moment in you, the moment you lose your peace. In the spiritual living language, you could say Abel is the transparent self and Cain is the opaque self. Not two people, two states, and you have lived both of them, today, probably this week, maybe in the last hour. Abel is the part of you that is simple, receptive, and clear, the part that can just be with life without turning it into a problem. Cain is the part of you that works, measures, compares, and tries to earn what cannot be earned. And the story is basically saying, watch what happens when Cain takes over. It starts so quietly. The text says Abel keeps sheep and Cain tills the ground. Just sit with that as a picture. Sheep are living, they move, they require attention but not force. You cannot bully a flock into peace. You guide, you watch, you respond. That is Abel, the transparent mind, the beholding mind. The mind that stays close to what is actually happening. Cain tills the ground, he labors, he pushes, he tries to extract results, he sweats, he is trying to produce something. That is the opaque mind, the mind that thinks, if I do enough, I will finally feel okay. Then both bring an offering. Cain brings the fruit of the ground. Abel brings the firstborn of his flock, the first and the freshest. If you read this psychologically, it gets very real. Abel's offering is immediate presence, the first moment, the simple now, before you add commentary, before you add strategy, before you add the scoreboard. Cain's offering is effort. It is the product of strain. It is the spiritual version of performance. And notice, Cain is not doing something obviously evil here. He is making an offering, he is trying, he is doing the spiritual thing. But his offering is coming from a mind cluttered with good and evil, a mind that is quietly keeping score. Am I doing it right? Am I better than them? Do I deserve peace yet? Is God happy with me yet? Now, the text says God favors Abel's offering, but not Cain's. This is where people get stuck because it sounds like favoritism. But read it like physics, not favoritism. If you are transparent, light passes through. If you are opaque, it does not. It is not personal, it is mechanical. When the mind is not judging, not comparing, not trying to be someone, there is a natural openness, a natural contentment. The peace that passes understanding can land because there is room. But when the mind is busy measuring itself, the peace cannot land. Not because you are rejected by God, but because you are blocked by your own density. It is like trying to see the sun through a dirty window while yelling at the glass to become clean. The yelling is part of the dirt. And that is why Cain's reaction is so important. Cain becomes very angry and his face falls. That line is the whole human condition in one sentence. The ego realizes its hard work did not buy it peace. It feels cheated. I did everything right. I worked. I improved. I stayed disciplined. I made the offering. So why do I still feel empty? Why do they look happier than me? Why do they get the blessing? Why do they get the ease? This is where the story turns from a calm inner life into an inner war. Then comes the warning, and it is one of the most psychologically precise warnings in the entire Bible. God says, "Why are you angry? And then if you do well, will you not be accepted?" Most people hear "do well" and immediately hear morality. But that is not what is being described here. This is not a lecture about being a good boy. This is a description of consciousness. To do well here is to shift states, to drop the comparison, to release the argument, to return to the state of is. Because the moment you stop measuring, you are accepted. You feel it immediately. Your nervous system relaxes, the mind unclenches, the world becomes simple again. Not perfect, not painless, but simple. Then comes the key line, sin lies at the door. The door is the threshold of your mind, the moment where you can still choose. It is that first instant when comparison appears. That instant when you feel the sting and you are about to build a story. That instant when the mind says, why them? Or how dare they? Or I'm not enough? Or I need to prove myself. Sin in this reading is not a moral stain. It is the entertaining of two powers. It is the moment you step out of inner unity and into inner division. It is the moment the garden disappears. And the text gets even more honest. Its desire is for you. Yes, the urge to judge is addictive. The ego craves the drama of being right. The ego craves the identity of being wronged. The ego craves the heat of outrage. It feels alive in conflict. Even if the conflict hurts, it is familiar. It gives the ego a job, and then you should rule over it. That does not mean suppress your feelings. That does not mean pretend the sting is not there. It means you have the capacity to stop the spiral right at the threshold. You can see the door, you can see what is waiting there, and you can choose not to walk through it. You can agree with your adversary quickly, meaning you stop fighting what you feel and you stop turning it into a war of good and evil. You let the energy move without turning it into identity. But Cain does not do that. Verse 8 says Cain talks with Abel, and in the field, Cain rises up and kills him. Again, if we read this as inner mechanics, it is painfully familiar. The field is the field of awareness. And Cain talking with Abel is the inner conversation you have when you are already agitated. You are still present, but barely. There is still some Abel in you, some quiet receptivity, some openness, and then the loud voice takes over. The argumentative voice, the prosecuting voice, the explaining voice, the I have to fix this voice, the I have to win voice, the I need to be seen as good voice. And it kills Abel, not physically, but functionally. This is the moment you lose your peace. This is the moment being right becomes more important than being connected. More important than being present. More important than being human. More important than being free. You kill your innocence, you kill your receptivity, you kill the listening ear. And then the world becomes a courtroom. Now the exile begins. God asks Cain, where is Abel, your brother? Read that as life asking you a simple question. Where did your peace go? Where did your softness go? Where did your clarity go? Where did the open heart go? And Cain answers, I do not know, am I my brother's keeper? That line is the signature of ego. It is separation speaking. It is the refusal of oneness. Because the deeper truth is that Abel is not your brother in the sense of an external person. Abel is your own transparent self, the very capacity for communion. So when Cain says, am I my brother's keeper? He is saying, I am not responsible for my connection. I am not responsible for my openness. I am not responsible for my peace. I will keep my argument instead. And then comes the curse. Not a punishment from above, but a natural consequence. The ground will no longer yield its strength to you. This is one of the most accurate descriptions of what happens when you live from the opaque mind. You can work hard. You can chase the relationship. You can chase money. You can chase success. You can chase spiritual experiences. You can chase validation, and the world does not yield. Even when you get what you wanted, it does not satisfy. Because the problem was never the ground. The problem was the opacity. When the inner window is clouded, nothing outside can feel like enough. Everything becomes a temporary fix for a deeper disconnection. Then it says Cain will be a fugitive and a vagabond. This is not just a lifestyle, it is a state of mind. You become a wanderer in time. You obsess over the past. You replay conversations. You regret. You fantasize about what you should have said. Or you flee into the future. You worry, plan, you brace, you catastrophize, and you are expelled from the only place peace exists. The now. Then Cain says something that reveals the deepest fear beneath ego. I shall be hidden from your face. That is what ego feels when it takes over. It feels cut off from life, cut off from God, cut off from the source. And notice the twist. Even here, the story does not abandon Cain. God marks Cain so that he will not be destroyed. The mark of Cain in this reading is the solidification of the separate self. It is the identity that forms after you lose peace. I am the one who suffers. I am the one who has to protect myself. I am the one who is alone. I am the one who must fight for my place. The ego becomes a hardened shell, a survival strategy. And yet life still sustains you. Even in separation, you are fed, you are watered, you are carried. Not because separation is good, but because grace is deeper than your confusion. So the question becomes very simple. How do you bring Abel back? How do you resurrect the transparent mind? You do not do it by improving Cain. You do not do it by making Cain work harder. You do not do it by tilling the ground of your mind all day, trying to manufacture peace. You reverse the process. The next time you feel the face fall, catch it early. Not at verse 8, when you are already in the field with a weapon. Catch it at the door. The door is that first instant of comparison. That first instant of judgment. That first instant of why them or what's wrong with me. And right there, instead of arguing with the feeling, you return to the simplest thing. I, not I as a story, not I as a resume, not I as a victim or a hero, just I as presence. You can literally pause and feel the fact of being aware. You can quietly affirm, I am in the midst of thee. Meaning the presence of God is not elsewhere, it is not earned, it is not given as a trophy, it is here as the very capacity to be aware. Then you can practice something that sounds almost impossible at first. Not because harmful things are fine, not because you become passive, but because you refuse to turn this moment into two powers inside yourself. You refuse to feed the inner war. You become transparent again. You let the mind clear enough to listen. And in that listening, Abel breathes again. Not as a concept, but as an actual felt shift. The quiet returns. The simplicity returns. The openness returns. And from that place, you can still act in the world, but you act without poison. You can set boundaries without hatred. You can tell the truth without needing to destroy someone. You can correct a wrong without building an identity out of being right. That is the difference between Cain action and Abel action. Cain acts to secure the separate self. Abel acts as an expression of wholeness. So if you want a single way to remember Genesis 4, here it is. Abel is your peace. Cain is your performance. The murder is the moment you choose righteousness over presence. The exile is the wandering mind. The resurrection is returning to the now before good and evil take over. And the whole story is sitting right inside you, waiting to be seen. Not once, but 1,000 times, until the door stops pulling you in.